Yeah, and welcome everyone to this talk about how we integrated Claude Code, one of the leading AI coding agents these days, as an external agent into Theia. And despite it being external, with its own runtime and configuration and API, how Theia AI enabled us to make it still, even though it's external, a truly native part of the overall Theia IDE experience, way beyond what would be possible with plain VS Code extensions and web views. And so that's what we will focus on, but we will also focus on generalizing this whole pattern, because actually, due to the flexibility of Theia AI, integrating external agents is pretty simple and pretty straightforward, actually. And in fact, it allows, or it basically follows a kind of a pattern that we've also, in the meantime, applied in several other customer projects. So we will also talk about how to integrate any external AI agents into Theia in a way that still feels completely native. And we will share a few lessons learned on things that you should look out for if you are planning to design your external agent and integrate it into Theia. So with that, let's start. But let's start with Claude Code and why we even picked Claude Code to begin with. So just in case you haven't heard about Claude Code yet, Claude Code is a very, very popular AI coding agent provided by Anthropic. It comes as a terminal application with a very powerful command line interface, and obviously it is based on Anthropic's language models such as Sonnet 4.5 or Opus 4.1. Of course, it's much more than these language models from Anthropic. It basically adds, the interesting part is that it adds a lot of clever prompting and tool design on top, really geared towards supporting developers in doing really feature development, bug fixing, workspace exploration, and all of that. And in particular, these tools that Claude Code comes with, they range from things like globbing the whole workspace, finding certain occurrences of strings with grep, running bash commands for you, interacting with Git, and interacting with basically the whole world using the model context protocol. So that's already super powerful, and it's really well designed and aligned with the capabilities of the language models that Anthropic provides. On top of that, there is a lot of functionalities that Claude Code provides that are geared towards making the developers' life very easy, such as modes. So you can run Claude in different modes, such as automatically applying changes or ask before edit. You can configure slash commands, which are essentially reusable prompt templates that you can run and that you can use to define your own workflows. And you can even design your own sub-agents, which is a great way to manage your context window efficiently. What also is very nice, especially for developers, is that it has a very clear and transparent memory management in terms of files. So basically, to bring knowledge about your project from one iteration to the next one, or from one session to the next one, you can create so-called Claude MD files that basically capture everything that you need, and they can also reference other files so that Claude can then incrementally explore those additional knowledge and pull it in whenever needed. And finally, it has a really powerful command line interface and runtime hooks, so it's very nice, capable of being scripted, of being also observed during runtime, and that you can trigger certain, I don't know, commands that you run when, for instance, a file has been edited, like linting and stuff like that, which is really, really powerful as well. And as I mentioned before, it comes as a pretty nice and interactive terminal application. And that brings me exactly to the point. So based on this pretty good experience that we had in our team with adopting Claude Code for several really also large-scale projects, we had a super nice experience. However, especially when you're working on these large projects, we started to feel a little bit of a gap between how you work with Claude Code on your code and how you are used to and familiar with working with your code using a modern visual IDE such as Theia IDE. Because there is a lot of cognitive overload or cognitive overhead when Claude suggests changes, asks you questions about your code, and you have to switch back and forth between your IDE. That is basically your window of how you understand and work with your code. And that's really for large projects and complex tasks, it adds an unnecessary cognitive overhead. That was at least our impression. So what this basically gave us the idea of why not basically getting the best of all worlds by, on the one hand side, achieving this smooth AI native IDE experience that you would otherwise only get from Theia IDE or GitHub Copilot or Cursor, where everything is basically within one application, nicely aligned with each other, but combine that with the really powerful capabilities of Claude Code, and bundle it up together in a modern open source flexible IDE that you can really change into something that works for you. And that's the Theia IDE. And that's exactly what we did. Basically, we took Claude Code and integrated it into the Theia IDE as a really natively integrated part of the IDE experience. So what does that mean? Of course, that means that we do a lot of context sharing between the IDE, such as which editors are open, what diagnostics are currently shown. We provide variables so that it's very easy to transfer context from your tool to Claude Code. And of course, when it comes then to reviewing changes that the AI did, we basically make it very easy to track those changes for the user so that the user doesn't have to sit in front of the terminal application and observe what happens. But the user can really just click on the list of changes that we collected for them and show them in the native diff editors. And this is especially very useful because the diff editor is something that you're very much used to as a developer. So you really want to use exactly that diff editor that you're also using for any other work that you do in your modern Visual IDE. And if you're like me and you forgot to commit all your changes before you start Claude Code to make the changes for you, then it's very hard to distinguish between what was changed before and what was actually changed by the AI agent. So that's a super nice feature. Also, of course, it is great to have responses by the AI agents in a way that is very much native, in the sense of that it can be clicked, that it's interactive, that you can observe which files has been looked at, and in order to see those files, not only just list the name, but provide a link that you can click and actually look at the file and stuff like that. So these are all things that help to reduce the cognitive overload when working with it. The same is true also for pulling in context. So that was basically understanding the context that you get from Claude Code and transferring it into the way how you understand and work with your code. And the other way around is the same. Basically, when I prepare a prompt for Claude Code or any other AI agent, one of the most crucial aspects, of course, is to collect the context that I think is very useful in order to achieve a certain task. And this context very much often depends on files. So it is much easier to use the native file search dialog in my IDE and then just directly pulling it into the chat window and hit enter, and that's basically my context that you should look at. So also these kind of integrations. Sometimes it's also very useful to directly in the editor trigger chats based on that exact context to ask a question in the terminal and stuff like that, and even use much more of the overall Theia AI ecosystem. So maybe you already have a custom agent in Theia that you want to use, and now I want to be able to connect this custom agent in my Theia IDE with Claude Code that also now lives in my Theia IDE, and create even larger workflows. And all of these things I have now just theoretically mentioned. I, of course, want to also show them to you in practice and how this looks and feels like. Let me just switch to my IDE. So that's here. Now Theia IDE, a very complex product that I have opened here. So it's basically just consisting of these two TypeScript files which implement the calculator application. Reason why I'm just showing this small project here is not because Claude Code doesn't work on larger projects. Actually, it's pretty good exactly at that. But it's that all of the prompts that I'm running are much faster if the workspace is small, because then, of course, it doesn't need to look through so many files. So here in Theia IDE, that's basically as you would download it today. There is the chat window that we all already have seen in some way or another. And the new thing when we talk about Claude Code is that there is now here, when I press the add key, that there is now a Claude Code chat agent. So you see it's really natively just integrated as a yet another chat agent that you could use from the existing list of chat agents. So when I do confirm here, then I will just now from now on talk to Claude Code, and I will now basically ask it to add support for the power operator in this calculator application in my current file. And you see this file is currently open. I don't even need to specify which file I'm talking about. I'm just saying my current file, because that's exactly what this native IDE integration helps, basically that it already knows which file I'm talking about. Of course, this is just the simplest example. We could think about many other, or there is a lot of other contexts that we share, such as, I don't know, diagnostics, the recent files that you have looked at and stuff like that, selection and stuff like that. So this is just to demonstrate that. So now Claude Code was already busy, so it's still running, but it started to look at the file that I had opened. It started to add some, I don't know, keyboard support, implemented the calculator method for calculating the power operator, and basically then just gives me some instructions. And now at the end, it tells me, finally, you have to, I did all the changes, you have to now run npm run build client, which is known to it because that's specified in the Claude MD file. But what I really want to highlight is, of course, this is truly interactive, so I can look at exactly what it did here. I can click on the link here to really jump directly to the file that has been changed. This is really the file as currently on my disk. If I want to look at the changes that Claude did, we collect all of them here in the change set feature of Theia AI. So when I click here, then this is actually now a diff editor that shows me exactly what has been changed. And I can even go back here and say, okay, I don't want to have that, and click on undo. And then I say, I wasn't my mistake. I really still want to have to do that. And now it's done again. So it's really a nice way to collect all of the changes and work with them. So now the changes have been implemented. I can, of course, now also go ahead and, since Claude Code has terminal access, I can ask it now to build it. But I want to also show you something else. So I make a change here and introduce some error, and will now say, yes, please build the app now to confirm everything works. Now Claude Code continues and will actually run a terminal application, which I have not allowed it to do upfront. So what this is just to demonstrate that even though it's an external agent, we can basically intercept all of the things that it does and ask the user, do you really want to run this command? I can now look at all the details and say, okay, this command is safe, and I allow it. And now hopefully the build would spit out a compile error. And yeah, here there's a TypeScript compilation error. Now it reads the file again and said, you were stupid, I will fix it for you. And now it will try it again. I will allow it. And that's essentially, hopefully in a second, it will tell me that all went fine. Yeah, now it's done. Perfect. The build runs through. So what else can I show you? Let me just, for instance, create a new session here. So pulling in context is something I mentioned. So I can, again, start talk to Claude Code and say, can you summarize? And now I just go here and pull in this file and drop it and hit enter. And now it becomes part of the context. Of course, I can also use keyboard shortcuts or just start typing the file name like package.json here and hit enter. That would be the same, but it's very different. There's different native ways of pulling in context, which is something I do on every single prompt that I add. I will basically pull in context that I find useful. So when I hit enter now, then I will go ahead and read this file from the context and will give me a nice summary. Speaking of interactiveness also, there is these slash commands that I mentioned before. All of these are also supported, of course, in Claude Code directly, but we even support them in the Theia IDE also in a native way. So when you hit slash here, we basically list all of the commands that Claude Code provides and handle those that are basically session management oriented directly in the IDE. So when we hit clear and hit enter, then we really switch to a new session, and we can even now say Claude Code resume, for instance, and then we show the native list of sessions that we had up here earlier, and I can basically select one. So all very native and nice. Theia also has support for completing custom commands, so I can create a custom / command here right now, and let me just call that create TheiaCon, and oh, I should maybe use a markdown file here, and I will write here, what could I write? Always say hello to the TheiaCon crowd, hit save, and as soon as I've done that, I can again go to Claude Code, and if I hit /now, then we have this command here now, and when I execute that, then hopefully it will follow what I wrote in my / command, yeah, and we'll create the TheiaCon crowd. Excellent. Yeah, what else? Of course, we now talked a lot about the chat interface. We've integrated Claude Code also beyond that. So let me see if I can open here a file and go to some arbitrary place and just select something. Can hit Control-I, and now also talk to Claude Code directly within the editor and ask, for instance, can you please explain this method for me? And then we basically trigger a new chat packed with the entire context of the editor, like selection, which file was opened and stuff like that, again with Claude Code, so that it can basically exactly tell me what this selection was about. Of course, it doesn't stop at the editor. We can do something similar as well in the terminal here as well. So I can here trigger a chat as well, and for instance ask find, I will just copy that, find all TypeScript files in source and count the lines. And now Claude will essentially compute a command for me. And if I'm happy with that command, I can hit enter, or I can cycle through different suggestions that it made. And once I confirm, it will be added into the terminal input, and I hit enter again. And now it will give me the nice result of that as well. There is many other things, but just to show you one example that I really like to show, and that's basically here in this case, Claude Code is integrated just as yet another chat agent, and that means it is actually part of the Theia AI ecosystem. So I can even now integrate it with the Theia AI ecosystem and workflows and agents that I may have also created in the Theia IDE here. And that's something that I want to show. I just want to ensure that we remove all of the changes that we did, that I run a build again, and then I will start this application. Because what I want to show you is one particular agent that I find really useful, and that's a Theia AI native agent now, which is called App Tester, which works with MCP so that it can actually interact with the application and try stuff out, like testing certain scenarios and so on. And now I can go into the system message of this particular chat agent. I don't want to go into too much details, except for this one step in the workflow that we prompted to use, and that's fix the issue. If you find an issue during your testing, then please delegate to Claude Code to fix this issue with a detailed description of the bug and so on. So with that, we can really also integrate Claude Code with existing agents. And now I can basically just go ahead and start this app tester. Let's see if that works. So now this app tester will actually start a new browser session, which you see here. It will now start to interact with that browser session to test stuff. I told it to focus on multiplication to make it hopefully quicker. So it will now test multiplication, I guess, and will soon hopefully identify a bug, because I've hidden a bug in the multiplication. Let's see if it finds it. So let's go further. That computes correctly. Maybe I forgot to reset this. It should have a bug. Okay, let's stop this. I will try it one more time. Maybe I didn't build it correctly before. Okay, this is saved. I will just try this out real quick. 7 times 5 is, yeah, that's wrong. So let's go back to app tester and try this once again. It should find the bug and then hopefully fix it. So here go again. 4 times 5 is click equal to 10. Ah, I notice a potential issue. Okay, so app tester is defensive here. Maybe this was just a fluke. I don't know. So it will go ahead and test it another time. We can leave it running here in a few seconds. It will basically tell me that it found an issue, and that then it will delegate to Claude Code to fix it. It will even try the third time, as it looks like. When I tested this before the talk, it was more confident and already started fixing it after one go. But anyway, better to test 3 times than 1 time. But now it's almost done, I guess. Now it will fix it. Okay, so now it has the bug. Let's test it one more time. Okay, that takes a little bit longer than expected. Hopefully it doesn't come up with yet another test that it should try. Come on, you can do it. Okay, this starts to take too long. Anyway, what I wanted to show you is that usually it would basically then create a bug description and would basically delegate to Claude Code to fix it, and Claude will fix it. I will go back to the slides and continue the presentation, and we can have a look at it right after that as well to see what it came up with. So yeah. This integration is actually available today since Theia 165, so you can download it and use it and play around with it. So feel free to also reach out to us if you have ideas of features that you would like to see. Now let me talk about how this actually has been integrated in Theia AI. So this is basically the main architecture of Theia AI, where we have the generic chat integration in Theia. We have all of the other components in Theia, and then there is an agents area where you can basically add your own agents here that can talk to your own tools, that can pull context from your own variables, and that can render specific UI. So that's the basic Theia AI functionality. And these agents usually talk through a language model provider interface to the language model. So what happens now if I want to integrate an external agent? Essentially, this is foreseen by the framework to basically in the same way. So you register a Claude Code agent or an external agent the same way as you would register an agent, but instead of going through the language model interface, you can basically set it up to talk to your custom backend that then would talk to the external agent, and the external agent can then talk to the LLM directly. Of course, you then still want to provide all of these nice integration features that I've shown. So you can, for instance, add your own custom completions. You can add your own custom UI to render certain responses and stuff like that. And that's working then basically the same way as you would write your native agent. So there is not much difference. And that's actually a pretty nice pattern that we did now for a couple of agents that works really well. And basically it can be repeated with arbitrary external processes. So what are basically the responsibilities of each of these blocks? So the Theia front-end agent registration basically just makes the agent known to Theia, and it then does the session management, basically mapping between the sessions within Theia and the sessions which may be managed in the external agent. And then it basically maps the external messages from the agent into a UI model that will then show up in the chat, like for instance a tool call or a custom UI that you want to show, or a markdown text or whatever. And that's essentially it. You can then, of course, add much more on top, like you can read preferences that you pass on. You can do custom context elements or integrate it with the change set feature, which is something that we did here, and so on and so on. So you can use all of the Theia features and hook them up here as well. The middle part, the Theia backend integration, is really thin because it essentially is just a a lifecycle management of the external process, if it is even an external process, or maybe it lives remote. And other than that, it's basically just passing messages back and forth, or maybe setting certain preferences like that. Sometimes maybe it's also useful to have like custom behavior, like reacting to hooks if a file is changed, that you make a backup first to provide diffs and stuff like that, like we did in Claude Code. But that's then just already advanced functionality that you add on top. And the external agent now, that's essentially where all the prompting, the context engineering, the behavior, and the tools and the LLM communication happens. And that's essentially then what really makes up your agent, goes just in this external agent, which obviously can be implemented in an arbitrary language and arbitrary technology stack. There is a few important considerations and options that you can consider when you now start to design your external agent that you may want to integrate into an IDE in general and into Theia in specific. So that's, of course, a topic of authentication. So you need to kind of decide upfront which part is responsible for authenticating users. Is it the Theia front end, or is it really the external agent? Is there some OAuth flow that you need to implement so that really the UI can bring up, for instance, a browser window to complete the OAuth and stuff like that? So that's something to consider upfront. The same is true for configuration and options. Do you read those from file and have Theia basically just write into the same configuration files and let your external agent read from those? This gives you the chance still to write a nice UI for your configuration in the Theia part. Or is that something that basically you hand over through parameters using some sort of CLI or something like that? That's also an important consideration. And last but not least, session management is important. Obviously, in Theia, there is already a session management, like past messages, which other sessions exist, but you need to find out where you want to do this session management. Because if you want to use your external agent also without Theia, then basically the session management needs to go into the external agent. But then there needs to be a way for Theia to tell the agent which session is now continued. Maybe a past message is now being edited and you start a new branch within the session from an edited message and stuff like that. So that's something to consider as well. Usually it's rather easy. You basically work with response IDs that can always be continued, but that's something to design up front. And of course, async permission requests, stream type messages to basically then later on allow it to show custom UIs. Change tracking hooks is also something that needs to be considered upfront. And the most important part is, of course, the context injection mechanisms. So context injection is super important because the tool that you show to your user is really a valuable stream of important context, like activities, recent activities, open views, diagnostics. You basically want to transfer all of that into the agent. So you need to upfront design how it can be transferred. A simple way, of course, is always to allow the tool to do some appendix to the system message that is then handed on to the tool, but that only works for rather request static context. It does not allow the agent to fetch values later on. And for this, we need dynamic context injection. And what we can give here as a recommendation, what really works well, is essentially Theia itself is already an MCP server. So that means Theia can expose tool functions and actions as an MCP server that you can then consume again from your external agent. Since MCP is standardized, almost all of the frameworks will support it, and that opens a whole world of things. I won't go into details, but it basically allows you to fetch diagnostics, fetch terminal output, run tasks, remote control debug sessions, which actually live in your IDE but are available to your external agent, and even delegate tasks from their external agent to Theia AI native agents. So that opens basically all of the options. And then you can put all of that into your custom IDE and ship it either as a modern IDE visual tool product or alongside your external agent as different ways of consuming your AI capabilities. And basically, with that, there is no question anymore whether to implement something as an AI native tool or as an external agent. You can actually do both and still get the benefit of integrating these AI capabilities natively into in IDE to create a great experience. And last but not least, Claude Code, which the integration that I've shown before, is not only available for Theia IDE, it is available as an extension so that it can be integrated into your Theia application as well. And with Claude Agent SDK, which is also integrated, available with the upcoming release, you can even now create custom agents very easily within Claude and still ship them alongside your custom Theia IDE product. So that's something to look out for as well in the future. Yeah, that's all I wanted to mention. Contact us if you want us to help, if you can use our help in developing your external agents or integrating them natively in your IDE. We are happy to help. And of course, if there is some questions, I'm happy to answer them if there is some time left.
There is. We'll make time for it. We do have one little question, but thank you as well, Philip, for that fascinating presentation.
Sure.
So we got one from Michael Scarf, and it says, "What about Codex?"
Oh, very good question. So actually, there is a PR open that integrates Codex exactly the same way, and this is also what I meant before with the pattern. Basically, it's just very simple, straightforward pattern. The only thing that really then needs to be done specifically for each integration is adapting the message protocol of this particular external agent to map it to specific functionalities in the UI and vice versa to find good ways to inject the context in the other ways. But Codex will be available very soon as well in Theia.
Amazing. Well, that's it. That was all the questions that we have for you here. And if there is any later on that anyone thinks of, please feel free to use the Q&A tab. Philippe will be able to address them directly in that section as well.